Hello friends, it's Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, back today to do another review. However, this is a first for a product category that we've done on the channel. I've reviewed leg presses, but more just ones that attach to racks. This is a product category that specifically you've asked for, so just know that when you ask for things in the comments, we will sometimes do them. But this one specifically is a combo unit of two of the most popular lower body exercise machines in the world in commercial gyms. And that is a leg press and hack squat combo. This one's from Titan Fitness. It hits a lot of the marks for things that people are looking for, and at a price point that I think a lot of people care about and would actually consider. So once you started asking about it in the comments, we put it on the list, and now we are reviewing it. You're welcome. Okay, before I get into the full review, let me kind of show you how it works. Two of the most popular lower body exercises within commercial gyms are a hack squat and a leg press. Without a doubt, you will find more of these oftentimes than you will find squat racks, and you will definitely find people using them more than you will squat racks. I don't think it's a good thing, but it's just how it is. And so a lot of people, when they're going from the commercial gym to their home gym, they're looking to replicate that experience. But one, leg press and hack squats take up a ton of space, and two, they're very expensive. So a lot of people decide, I'm just gonna forgo those, and then they longingly look at their old ways in their commercial gym and like, man, I wish I had those machines. Well, I think this one can kind of fit a lot of those places for people without taking up an egregious amount of space and without taking a ton of your dinero. That's what this is designed for. This is the Titan Hack Squat leg press machine. I'm gonna talk about how it compares to a standalone leg press, a standalone hack squat. I'm also gonna compare it to some other units that are out there because this is not the only one. If you'd like to see full in-depth reviews on any others that are on the market that are like this, or other product categories that we don't hit a lot, like leg extensions, leg curls, any of those other machines, let us know because we're making this because you've requested it. But let me know in the comments. But before I go any further, one, this was sent to us free of charge by Titan, so we can give an honest take. You'll know that as I've reviewed a lot of Titan products, it's always honest. I think sometimes they're scared to send it, but we're gonna give you an honest take just like we always do. In addition to that, if you'd like to purchase this, we'll put links below the like button where you can do so. Titan will pay us a small commission, doesn't increase the cost you pay, but does allow us to keep collecting gym equipment. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, first off, I wanna speak directly to how can it be used for both a leg press and hack squat. Anytime you combine two things, there's often some trade-offs, so I wanna speak to that. Number one, this can legitimately, just to calm your fears, this can legitimately be used as a hack squat and a leg press. Now, there are some things that you have to give and take, but if you're coming from a gym setting where, let's say, they've got Cybex or Nautilus or some of those really high-end commercial pieces that are leg presses and hack squats, and you're used to using those, and you want to have a similar experience, legitimately, this can do it. Okay, so before I get into any of the other stuff, this can legitimately feel similar to those. Now, it's not the same. Those are higher quality. They've got some things about them that are superior. That said, for saving space and doing both movements from the feel perspective, this can accomplish both of those, which is why I think this product category is so underlooked and will be looked at more and more as people add these to their home gyms. But the biggest benefit that this hits, and really all these machines hit that have the combo units, is they take two machines that take a lot of space and cost a lot of money and combine them into one. The reality is this is less than just about every other leg press that you'd find in a commercial gym. Now the question is, okay, it feels like it, but what's the quality like? What's the durability like? What's the value like? How does it compare to the other machines out there? So although I kind of gave you that and I buried the lead a little bit, I want to talk through the specifics on what it's like to actually use it day to day, what the issues I have with it from the assembly, also to the use cases, and then just talk about some of the comparisons. Okay, first off, let's talk about the size. This is a big machine. machine. You know, even though it's combining two really big machines, even if it's half the space of those two machines, it's still a really big machine. Like, it's the same size generally as most leg presses or hack squats that you'd find in a gym. I think the only caveat would be to that is like if you use the Cybex. Cybex makes this old school 45-degree leg press that is just incredibly compact. If you've ever used one, you know what I'm talking about. This is bigger than that, but that's because it also does a hack squat. This is designed to have a 45-degree sled, both for leg presses and hack squats. So because of that, it's taken up a lot of real estate. Lengthwise, which is the biggest thing you're looking at, is 84 inches. Width is 40 inches, and then it's 53 inches tall. The height of it doesn't really matter. It's one reason that I love vertical leg presses, which, by the way, if you'd like to see any reviews on those, let me know in the comments, because there's many out there, and really, I think for home gym owners, that is the smallest way that you can pack a legitimate leg press into your gym, because it's fully vertical. So this takes up more space than, say, a vertical leg press, but you can't do hack squats vertically. So then you're looking at the width, 40 inches. Many of you know the widths of your squat rack, which is often 47 to 49 inches, so it's about 8 to 9 inches thinner than that, consider that. But I would say just generally the floor print on this, when you factor in you need room on both sides to put plates, you're looking about a whole nother squat rack in your garage. It's pretty much how it is. You can't stack stuff on top. That would be nice unless you built like this weird garage for it to sit in. That could kind of be cool. But most of you will not do that, so you're just looking at the floor print you're taking up, and this does take up a lot of floor space. But it's two of the most popular and mass building lower body exercises that you can do, so for a lot of you, it makes sense. Now, this is plate loaded, and it's using a lot of steel. So because it's plate loaded, it's lighter than, say, a weight stack version, say a weight stack leg press or something like that, because you supply the weight, but it's also quite heavy. So once it's in place, it's stable, and you're really not gonna move it around. It's 325 pounds, it's there, and it feels very solid. One thing that matters with these is you wanna feel solid when you're in them, because you are going to use quite a bit of weight, especially on a leg press. This is legitimately designed to lift 1,000 pounds. And if you're putting 1,000 pounds on this thing, you want to make sure not only is it very sturdy, not only is it very safe with the lockouts, but also that the platform you're using does not warp in any way. You know, it'd be like basically you go out to squat and you're walking on like shifting sand or something. It would just feel really off and also have some problems for injury. I will say generally, just overall, this thing is very solid. When you rack the weight on or off, it's very solid. When you're putting your feet on the diamond plates for extra grip, it is very solid. It's not like you feel like you press in or anything like that. Sometimes that's a worry for me with some of these cheaper units, like you're gonna put your feet on the platform and suddenly they're gonna warp with a lot of weight. It's not that way. If you close your eyes, you unrack it, it feels like you would in a commercial gym. Now, one thing on the dimensions I want to mention, because this is a question a lot of you will have, if you're above 6'3", this probably isn't the unit for you. I think you're gonna lock out. For many of you, if you want a full range of motion and you're taller than that, this is gonna feel kind of awkward. You're gonna rub up against the top. I've seen some people online that are 6'2" or so, and they're like, we're fine. But if you're 6'3" or above, I think you're gonna have issues with it. Now to the construction. This is using standard Titan construction. So what I mean by that is they're using steel, and they're also using their same texture powder coat. They're using their same hefty grip vinyl on all the vinyl parts. It feels like a Titan product in a positive way. What I mean by that, it's a newer generation Titan product. This doesn't feel like their older stuff that, you know, it just didn't feel very good, some safety issues there. No, I feel very safe when I use this. Whenever I lock or unlock the racking, it feels very solid. Everything about it just feels quality. So the powder coat that's used is a texture powder coat. Really the only part of it that I wish it didn't have texture powder coat is, say, the plate loaders, but not a big enough deal to really care about for the price point. There are some competitors like Force USA that are a little bit higher price point, but they use chrome sleeves, which is a nice addition, but something worth talking about. One area though that Titan surprised me on this is actually the adjustment system for the back pad for the leg press or for the foot pad for the hack squat, because it's the same thing, it just adjusts, is on the back of it. The adjusting tube, the input tube, is actually chrome. which is very nice. It's chrome with a plastic sleeve. It's something that I felt like they could have easily overlooked, but I think this shows like an evolution in Titan, showing more thought into the details, because this allows you to adjust it with a nice spring pop pin that pops and goes up and down very well and looks very clean, and also won't mar and scar over time. Something small, but I think it kind of points to like a more premium feeling unit than what the price suggests. The other thing is the hefty grip vinyl they're using. If you've ever used a rep bench, an earlier version rep bench, this feels similar to that. Not their latest Blackwing bench with the newer vinyl, but kind of the version 2.0. This is very similar to that. This is what they're using on nearly all of their machines now. Their lat pull down seat uses it, as well as the rollers. Some of their GHDs and benches are now getting it. They have it on this. I really like it. It's kind of like a budget friendly fat pad Rogue, you know, vinyl. It's not as thick, but it feels really good. It's very durable. You stick to it. I really like it. It's on both the leg press, seat, back, and all the hack squat padding. I like it. Now, as I said, but it's worth calling out, the handles and everything on this feel very solid. Handles on a hack squat or leg press matter, because most of you, when you're squatting, you want to hold on to something. Kind of like when you do with a safety squat bar, you want something that you can really crank on, because when you're coming out of the hole on a hack squat, you're just looking for every little bit of thing that you can hold on to get out of it. So having strong handles, and handles for racking and unracking, they're important. They're more important than I think most people realize. One thing that they did do on this that I really like is it has bronze bushings for the racking and unracking system. They could have just put metal on metal this could just have been in a metal cylinder. I don't think most people would have noticed a ton, but this makes it very smooth and safer than it would be otherwise, because it spins really well. Every part where there would be metal to metal contact either has rubber or UHMW plastic. Again, like this is a newer generation Titan product, and so it's higher quality, both in the looks, but also in the actual feel and use of it. I'm impressed with this part. This could have been something, because these details are kind of hidden, because this is more a budget-friendly product versus the commercial units they could have overlooked, but this leads to a better experience, a safer experience, and also a longer lasting product. Okay, then let's talk about the adjustments. Kind of showed you how they worked in the beginning. Essentially, this is my biggest like hiccup with this machine, is really the leg press back pad. The way that it adjusts is it flips back over and kind of sits up kind of weird in the back. It's not my favorite design. Honestly, I don't have another way to do it with it staying on the machine. One idea would be to make it so it just like slides in, and then you could take it off and use it as a bench pad or something like that. But that's really what it is it's a bench pad that has a piano hinge that flexes back and forth. It works really well in use. My potential problem with it is I have kids in my garage, and if that thing gets left up, that thing is breaking. There is no doubt about it. You guys with kids know that as well. So the one thing I'd say is, if you're gonna get this, I would leave it in the leg press mode when you're not using it, just so there's not any potential issues there. But other than that, like, the adjustments are very quick, they're very solid, and it's very easy to go from leg press to hack squat. The leg press foot plate that you use folds down, and that's what's used as a back pad for the hack squat. It's very quick, uses pop pins, very solid. When it's there, it's there. There's multiple adjustment points for nearly everything, so it fits all body types. If this is their first gen, this is honestly one of the best ones that's a first gen product. There's just not really a ton of issues on any of it that I can point out. Now, before I get into the value and kind of what I think about it versus other products, because we're not just looking at this by itself, you're gonna be comparing it to all others, I did want to mention kind of some pro tips. Number one, this isn't using linear bearings. So you go to a commercial gym, they're going to be using linear bearings. Linear bearings is a better choice. It's also more expensive. It's smoother. It does take some upkeep, but that's really the ideal choice. And one reason that this can be cheaper is because it's not using those. If you look at one of the highest end hack squats in the world, you'd be looking at something like an Atlantis Hack Squat Pro. 30 degree, just like an amazing machine, absolutely huge. Also would cost probably as much as your car, but those are going to be using linear bearings. You're not really going to get one with linear bearings for this price point. There is some things to look at, like Force USA has theirs, which uses linear bearings, but again, you have to pay for shipping, and it is a bit more than this one. I think the rollers are actually not a bad idea. They're wheels that sit inside, they're urethane coated with this red urethane. They look kind of cool. It's pretty smooth. Like, a pro tip I would give is grease the sled on the inside. It's going to make it move smoother up and down. But overall, like, I don't think you're gonna have a ton of issues. These are gonna be really reliable, probably even more reliable than linear bearings because you're not gonna have to do much upkeep. But I just check them every once in a while to make sure that thing is greased and slick. But other than that, for home gym use, that's gonna be one or a couple people, like this design with the rollers is gonna work out fine. Now, the other thing I'd call out is this can be used as a third machine technically, and that's a calf raise. Depending on how tall you are, and if you place a block on this for stretch for your calves, that's how I would use it. I've used hack squats like that before. It works really well. It's just another way to get another use out of the machine, which is nice. One thing I will say though, for those of you that are used to a really wide platform, say you're like a West Side squatter and you really like squatting wide, you're gonna feel kind of cramped on this. That's one of the gives and takes with this, is the platforms for your feet are a little compact. So for the foot plate for the leg press, it's 21 inches wide, and then for the hack squat, it's 26 inches wide. So for most of you, that's gonna be fine for shoulder width squatting and even a little bit wider. But those of you that are really like sumoing out wide, like you're gonna wanna get something from Elite FTS or something like that that has a monster platform. But the positive on that side is it allows it to be more compact. So I wanna speak to the assembly because that matters, especially on a piece like this. Talking to Sam, he said overall it was a 7 out of 10. So for comparison, the Force USA G20 was like a 2 out of 10. So if that gives you an idea. But essentially, there were some things I saw online in their reviews on their website of people complaining about the instructions, the assembly, everything like that. It can be a little bit of a complicated assembly. It's heavy, so you need multiple people. The other thing is you need to have some watch outs on some specific parts. One thing to consider is if you're moving this, I would cut the zip ties ahead of time. One thing that happened to Sam was he went to move the machine, the zip ties were still attached. Once they moved it, the zip ties broke and almost like a guillotine cut his fingers off. It didn't happen, like he's okay, but I would just be aware of those are there to hold it during shipping. Before you get that thing all set up and you're moving it around, cut those things so that sled is locked in. So watch out. But this thing is heavy, so I would suggest when you build it where it's going to live and probably have an extra guy to help you. Okay, so let's talk about the value. Price-wise, like, this is as much as a higher end squat rack. It's as much as, say, a functional trainer. You have to decide where you're spending your money. I would personally not suggest or buy this before I'd buy a functional trainer. I think you get more out of a functional trainer. Depending on which one you can get one that's more expensive or less. But I think you're looking at a similar price range. This is $1,890. Depending on which one you go with, it can be similar, but this is taking up quite a bit of space and can do 2 movements, whereas with a functional trainer, although it's upper body focused, I think you can get some lower body in there too. So it just depends on your type of training to who I'd recommend it. I will say for this type of machine, this is about the price you're looking at for a budget version. Like this is, like you can go less, they're not gonna be nearly as good. You can go much higher and they'll be better, but I think honestly, this is one of the best values that's on the market. I do wanna compare it directly to the Force USA because it has some positives and it's not that much more expensive. So if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments. But generally, like if you're looking for this type of machine that combines both, I think this one does a good job. If you're used to using an Atlantis machine or like Cybex or some of those really high-end Nautilus, Life Fitness, some of those, like, you know, you may not love this because doesn't have the linear guide rods, it doesn't have some of the premium touch points and things you'd use in a commercial gym. But for 99% of you that are looking for something to get the job done in a home gym, this does it. Like it does. Like if you're really looking to put some mass on your quads and your hamstrings, your glutes, you're used to using these machines in a commercial gym, really want to have that machine, like I think this is the one to go with, unless you want just a hack squat or just a leg press. If you're only gonna use one functionality, I think you get by with using something else. Say Titan has their vertical leg press. Again, if you'd like to see that reviewed, let me know in the comments. It's actually one my dad has. I know a lot of people like it. They're very compact, but it's a different movement. If you want a dual unit for $1,890 with free shipping, like this thing is heavy. If that includes shipping, like I actually think it's a pretty good darn value. So one thing I want to hit on is the idea of safety with this. I view it very similar to my Rogue Rhino. So my Rogue Rhino is a belt squat. It travels on an upright. I like to put it, when I'm using it, I put it so it's like locked into the J-cup/horn, but whenever I'm not using it, I put it at the bottom. I'd suggest the same thing for this. So if you're not using it, I would completely unload it, unless you don't have kids and you're not worried about it, but me, I would be. I'd unload it and I would just bring the sled all the way to the bottom. That's how I'd start it. I will say something to call out. With the feel of the machine, the hack squat does feel heavier than most commercial gyms. I would say it feels, if you put a plate on, it feels kind of like you have 2 plates on. I don't think it's too heavy for most people. I think it'll be fine. The leg press definitely feels fine, and you can put a ton of weight on it. Honestly, if you want to make it even more compact, the top bar, you could actually remove that and only use the bottom sled. Like, that's a possibility if you want to make the machine even more compact, something to consider. But for most of you, the way I would do it for safety is I would just lower it to the bottom and leave it sitting there. The other thing to mention are the safety bars. There's 3 positions for the safety bars. That's pretty standard for many of these within commercial gyms that aren't like just the uber expensive ones. So you have multiple positions where you can do start points for multiple leg lengths, depending on how tall you are, which is nice. And also, like, there's just multiple places where you're gonna be able to set it if you can't finish a rep. Okay, before I close, one thing, if you'd like to see more of these or any others you wanna compare, let me know in the comments. This, again, was one that you guys had shouted out many times, so here we are reviewing it. Thanks for following along. Let me know what you think of the piece. Have you used it? It's got a ton of reviews on Titan Sight, so I'm sure there's many out there. I'd love to hear if your experience has met mine. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.